And welcome to Digital Transformation Survivors. This is the podcast that talks to industry professionals about their challenges in learning how to manage complex web estates. I'm your host, Julian Tedstone. I'm the Managing Director for Coherence, and we specialise in figuring out how businesses manage complex website portfolios. So that's environments where you maybe have multiple sites, multiple applications serving different markets and audiences or stages in a user journey. And I guess this podcast is here to explore the unique challenges and learn from those that have a perspective. Technologists, business leaders, or marketing practitioners. And today I'm very excited to introduce our guest, Simon Sanett. Welcome, Simon. Simon is the Senior Group Digital Manager for the United Kingdom's National Grid. So the National Grid handles UK's electricity and gas transmission. So it's a major part of the UK's infrastructure. But to those folks based in the UK who may not know, the National Grid also operates a retail business in the US and many other operations. So a big, complex and very critical piece of our national infrastructure. Simon heads up, amongst other things, a very talented group of people that he's been developing over the past few months and years, and we're going to dig into what that talented group of people is doing. But also, amongst other things, he's a musician, he's a skater, and an all-round Renaissance gentleman. So I'm very pleased to welcome him to the podcast today. So quite a day job. Welcome, Simon. Very pleased to have you on the podcast. How are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. So let's dive in. Let's start. It'd be great just to hear a little bit about yourself, your background, your role, and some of the specialisms that you've got that really help you to become a digital transformation survivor.
Thanks, Julian. Well, it'd be no surprise from your intro. I started off working in the music industry back in the year 2000 after I graduated with a degree in music management. And my first role was at the British Phonographic Industry, which is the trade association of the music industry. I walked in there on work experience, and they turned around to me and said, "We've got a bit of a problem with the internet without things like Napster. You're young, could you help us sort that out?" So that was my first role, and its first role in digital at a time when I was working in an office with a dial-up, and it was extremely interesting time because I think I spent about 8 years there, and I learned about how content was being distributed across the internet and how businesses were really grappling with trying to get their heads around the way that this new world was working. At the time, record companies just didn't want to let go of the fact that content was being digitalized. They still saw it as a record selling business. I remember on my graduation we had a guy called Maurice Oberstein, who is the president of CBS Records in like the 70s and 80s, talked to us about how MP3 was just another format, just like CDs, just like records, just another format. And little did they realise that the change of the way that culture would go and the way that people would use the internet would change so rapidly. So part of my role there was working with the record companies to really help them understand digital, but I also worked a lot with internet service providers, talking to them about how that they could protect their networks and their customers from sharing illegal files and stay within the rules. So I worked there for about 8 years, and it was anti-piracy, and I'd done my degree, so I wanted to work in marketing, not be the policeman of the internet. So I decided at the time I taught myself SEO, and I had read a few books around SEO and really kind of understood how to get on top of Google, which was actually the name of the book that I had read. So I managed to get myself a role in an agency called BLM Quantum that was part of Arena Media, now part of Havas. My role there was off-site content coordinator, I think my job title was. So what I had to do was work with really what we call influencers now, but back in the day were bloggers, working with them to build links off of websites and we took an approach where we wanted to, where previously people used to link farm stuff, sell, buy links. We wanted to do it in a content way. So building really good, rich links to help push people's websites up. And I worked for huge brands like Domino's Pizza. I remember we were #1 for pizza in London for quite some time. People like Fly Thomas Cook, cheap flights to Alabama was one of the keywords that we used to go after. Around that time is when Twitter was quite new, but businesses were starting to get onto social media. And I remember writing a document for Domino's Pizza justifying why they need to have a Twitter account. And the agency that was at was a media buying agency. So at that point in time, there wasn't that advertising around the social media like there is today. So I decided to move more into communications agencies, and because I really wanted to push what we were doing on social media and push the content side of things. So I worked for quite a number of agencies in the end. I worked for Grayling, Freud's, Pillar Norton, Porter Novelli, and I always say this: I've worked on everything from fashion to finance, and everything in between. I was talking about this the other day. The most depressing day of the year, that Monday in January. I think back in 2012, I worked on something for Tropicana where we had a giant sun in the middle of Trafalgar Square to bring a brighter morning to everybody going past. And I remember having Tropicana sun trending on Twitter for 8 hours, which was amazing at the time to get that. And everyone wanted something trending. That was always the metric: is can we be trending for on Twitter? So I. Throughout that time, I'd worked on lots of different content creations and things like microsite creations. I'd worked on big websites for pharmaceutical companies. And then an opportunity came up about 5 years ago to go work at National Grid and work in-house and head up the digital team as part of corporate affairs. And I always wanted to try in-house because I'd worked for agencies for many years and worked on all sorts of clients. Working for agency is fantastic. You get a good breadth of knowledge, and the amount of clients that I've worked on, it's absolutely amazing. However, I always felt that you can't really get too in depth into a business. You kind of learn little bits about businesses and move on. So I wanted to have the opportunity to actually really understand a sector or a business. Working for National Grid was an ideal opportunity. And I realised when I joined how little I knew about the energy sector at that point, and how complicated it is. So when I joined National Grid, the role there really was to look after the social media side of things, the website, and content creation, and really help National Grid tell its story and bring its story to a digital audience. So I've been there 5 years in May. I started during the pandemic, so in 2020 I didn't see an office for quite some time. And what has been good at starting at a company at that point is I got very used to kind of working with remote teams. I have people I work with in the US on a regular basis, with data across the country. So really, that way of working has worked extremely well. It's been a great journey so far, and the work that we're doing at National Grid has been great. So it's a sector that is very traditional in its ways. But there's huge opportunity that at right this time we're right at the forefront of climate change. Creating innovative ways of generating energy and bringing it to people's homes and help combat those issues around climate change. And the way that we're working at the moment is we're bringing everything into the most recent century, really, and taking all of the digital estates and making sure that we have really good user journey, that we're really selling our story, that we're showing the innovation that we have, and taking some of those issues that maybe the companies had in the past with lots of the web estate growing up all over the place, and making it into one coherent user journey for all of our vast many users that we have. And yeah, I think what's very interesting about National Grid is we're a very unique business. Like, I think what you'll find in the UK is everybody would have heard of National Grid, but then you ask somebody, what does it do? And you know, quite often people don't realise what actual National Grid really is. And similarly with our website, we don't sell anything from it. We don't really market anything from it. So you know, for us to really understand what the value is of having a website is extremely important, and so that our senior management understand what they're investing in and understand the value of having what we see as the window to the world. You know, it's making sure that people understand what National Grid does, because most times people generally won't interact with us, but you still pay a part of your electricity bill will be going to National Grid. So everybody in the country, in the UK, is a customer. And then we have, obviously, as you mentioned in the intro there, we have operations in the US, in New York and in New England. We're basically the supplier of energies in many homes, and it works differently in America. You don't have the freedom of choice of a supplier like you have in the UK, but the energy companies own everything from transmission into your home, which is very different to what we have. So basically, customers pay National Grid a bill in America, in certain parts of America, which is a different thing to what we have here.
It's just I mean, such a vast area of operation, and I guess the audience needs are very, very divergent from your US business to your UK core activity, and and yet it's at the heart of it. It's the same set of people that are responding to those needs within the National Grid organisation, and I think that's really fascinating for me. How you I guess manage the balance of those kind of like direct consumer communications on the one hand, and the more kind of, I guess, what is it, indirect to consumer? Would you call it that in the UK, where I guess you are addressing a consumer audience, but it's not a direct consumer audience, and then you're also addressing I guess a wide variety of other stakeholders, which feel a little bit more like B2B in some respects, but not quite B2B. So I mean, it'd be great to unpack that a little bit. What does all of that look like? How do you cope with that diversity of audience segments?
Well, say customers is very, very diverse for us. So, for example, in America, our customers will be coming to our websites to pay their bills, and that is what they want to do. Well, not necessarily have to do when they come to the website, is they come to us and they want a seamless user journey that allows them to do, like naturally you'd want to do if you have to go to a company to pay a bill on a website. You want it to be easy. You don't want any issues. But we see that also as an opportunity to tell people about some of the work that we're doing. In the UK, we have lots of different sorts of customers, I would say. So, for example, the Great Grid Upgrade, and you may have seen an advertising campaign. That basically, as a company, what we're doing is we're helping the government achieve the net zero targets by building offshore energy. And what we're doing is we're building the infrastructure, which is a massive, massive task. I think we're building more infrastructure in the next 7 years than we've done in the past 30 years. Now, the issues with building infrastructure is you have to build it somewhere, you have to build it over land. So to get planning permission to build this critical infrastructure, we have to consult with the public as a normal planning process. So our website also at some points is for the public to come and offer their allow the public to come and give feedback on different areas of consultation and provide them the critical information they need to understand what's happening in their areas. And so we've got those. That's another sort of customer. Also, without going into too much detail of how the UK is set up, is the National Grid traditionally is transmission, which basically means you take the electricity from the source to a local distributor, and then the distributor is what takes it to your home. So a few years ago, National Grid bought a company called Western Power Distribution, and that is a local distributor around the southwest of the country and parts of Wales and the Midlands. So in those areas, National Grid is your distributor. So our customers there are people that will if there's a power cut, for example, you'll be going to National Grid in those areas to find out what's going on and when the power will be restored. So in recent storms, obviously they've been very busy with ensuring that on the website when people go for information that they can get the information very quickly. So we see them, they're obviously our customers in that area. And then we have what we call connections customers. So people that are looking to connect to the grid. So they may own a wind farm or some other energy source, and they need to connect to the grid. So we provide them the service to do that, and that's a core part of our customer base. But then outside of customers, we've got a lot of stakeholders that will be coming to our website. So highly regulated business. So we have a regulatory need to have quite a lot of a variety of content that has to be up there for our, to appease our regulators. But regulators are a core audience. Obviously, we have people like investors, media, and anybody else that you'd expect to have as business, and also politicians. We are running critical infrastructure as a regulated monopoly. And the political, you hear quite often in the political realms, particularly around election times, what's happening with the clean energy and how we're going to get to net zero, and we play a massive role in that. So politicians and whatnot will be using our website as a source of information. So yeah, it's big and a variety of audience, and they come to us for different things, either for information or doing a task, and we've got to make sure we cater for all of them in a seamless user journey that's accessible for all.
Yeah,
but also sells ourselves as a business,
which is that's what the gold standard that everyone's out there trying to achieve, isn't it? That kind of dealing with those different audiences in appropriate ways, and they're coming to, I guess, the same set of websites with very, very different intents. Some you're trying to just minimize friction and get them to a point where they can fulfill quite a transactional interaction, and others it's much more of a persuasive and an advocacy role, isn't it? So I guess trying to understand what people are trying to get out of the interaction with those different websites is really key.
Yeah. So the interactions that people are trying to get from the websites, say, like when customers come to pay their bill, they just want to make it a very, very easy process, and they want it to be seamless, and we want to provide them with that seamless journey. We monitor, we've been using recently a feedback survey via Qualtrics, which has been an eye-opener, and I think I'd recommend anybody see that, to actually hear what your users want and feel about your website is gold dust. And we're able then to look at the areas that we really need to prioritize and focus on. And I think one of the issues we've had in the past with nationalgrid.com is that it has been a merger of different websites, Along the way, the user journey has kind of got a bit muddled. So we've been working very carefully to make that user journey a lot more succinct for people and allow them to find the content that they're looking for. And we've been experimenting with our navigation because people have told us I can't find what I'm looking for. We've used things like Hotjar to record user journeys, and we're able to see those pain points for people, and we're able to then go along and put it on our product roadmap and fix it. But what our end game is, we want to get to more of a personalized website. We want to be, my vision for the website is it knows what you're there for, why you're there for it, and it gives you the content that you're looking for. And I think that will really just help our users and really complete our user journey and make our users' lives easy. I see it as that I want people to come into the website, come and do what they need to do quickly, perform that task, because they usually come for a task or for a reason. And then once they've done that quickly, we're able then to show them all the lovely other stuff that we're doing, that we, around net zero, and what it is that we are doing to push innovation. And people are only going to be receptible to that if they're able to complete their task, what they're there to do quickly in the first instance. If they spent 20 minutes to try and pay a bill, they're not really going to want to engage with us further. They will not be happy. So yeah, that's what we're really striving for.
That's really interesting. So the key thing there is to kind of reduce the friction on that initial transactional need, get that job done, but then make sure there's sufficient relevant, I guess, what's the word, what's the right word I'm looking for? Curated, organised, selected content for that user to help them with an onward journey, because there's such a wider field of activity that National Grid engages in. They could go anywhere, any number of different directions beyond that first interaction point. And I guess that's at the heart. So you mentioned personalisation being very key in that. You're obviously doing a lot to kind of track the kind of the different kind of behaviours and get qualitative insight into what people. So all of that kind of data then in the background, you've got a kind of a set of kind of web operations. You've got a collection of very talented people and a very kind of sophisticated technical architecture. Help break that down for us in terms of the team that you need to kind of service that kind of set of goals, and then the tools that you need. What does all of that look like?
Well, first of all, we are a highly regulated business, which means we can't just go pick a tool off the shelf and implement it. We have a vast team that we work with very closely in IT. So I work for corporate affairs. Our colleagues in IT, we work as a cross-functional team, and IT spend a lot of time taking our requirements and then finding the best product for us and what fits into our overall architecture. And there are a lot of things to consider. Security is a big one. So we are a critical national infrastructure. Security is at the heart of everything we do, and we don't want to buy a product that's going to really have any vulnerabilities in it. So we have robust security measures on everything. So we will not implement a tool. And there have been many tools that since I've been here have been removed by IT because they've been purchased in the past and they now are no longer secure and no longer meet our security standards. So that's great. It's frustrating when you're trying to get things done, but it's so needed, and without it, I think we would be in a worse place. So that is a major part, and it's a big thing that we do. But as a team, in the past couple of years, we've retrained to become an agile product team. So in the past, websites for National Grid meant somebody in the business wanted a website, they go to an agency who would then provide them an end-to-end product, which has worked on many instances for many years. But because we've got so large and we've built up now with so many different websites, so nationalgrid.com is one of them. We have the customer website in the US. We have National Grid and electricity distribution, which was that distributor that we purchased there on a different system. And then there's a whole host of microsites, all hosted in different places, run by different people. So we've reorganized as a product team, and I've had my team trained as in an agile product team working in Scrum. I'm glad to say that we are now seen as the gold standard in the business for agile product teams, and we're our coach that we've had along, who is an outside consultant, has praised the team at how well we've taken to this and transformed, and looked at a different way of working, and it's been great. And it is, as I mentioned a minute ago, we're now able to take user feedback, put it in the backlog, and action it, and make a difference and measure it and see if it's worked and make incremental changes. Whereas before we would have had to have gone to an agency, give a brief, and spent a long time before we could actually make a change and spent more money. But now we're able to work with agency partners who are able to bring people on as part of our product team, which works out really well, which I think helps the people that we're bringing in feel part of everything we do. And I think back to when I was at agencies, as I mentioned at the beginning, is that I didn't really get to know businesses. I just worked on a project here or there, got very involved in that project, but didn't really understand where the business was going or what was going to come next. Whereas I think bringing people in as part of a product team, it enables them to get more into the business of what we're doing and get more under our skin and help create better outcomes, which is fantastic. So our strategy now is to bring more of those websites that are hosted elsewhere into one product team, and to have what the term that people use, a centre of excellence of what is created, and able to then push that out throughout the business so that we're able to have consistency. And the main thing for me is making sure that we have a good user journey for all our users. The first question I always ask if somebody comes to me with an issue is like, well, what do the users think? What's the user issue? How are we going to make it better for our user? And if we always start from there, we can't go wrong, because you're always starting from a place of it's user first and then everything else, and you're always going to get it right when you're doing it that way.
So there's quite a lot to unpack there, but there's that journey from, I guess, the kind of the waterfall project-based way of delivering websites. You give it to a designer, then you give it to a front-end developer, you give it to a back-end developer, you give it to a QA, and then eventually something comes out at the other end. It's almost like a conveyor belt, sequential conveyor belt way of doing things. And you try and build a Gantt chart, against that. And then you flip that to the way that you're approaching it now, which is, I guess, much more from the kind of the product development side, or the service design side of things, where you're thinking about user challenges first. You're thinking about how that feeds into a much longer term strategy for building a set of practices, people capabilities, technology capabilities that are all aligned against that user-centered North Star. So that's the kind of as you said, the gold standard, where many, I think, enterprises are trying to head. Easier said than done, though, for many. What are the key challenges in achieving that, and how have you overcome those challenges?
Well, first off, training team.
Yeah.
Getting team members behind essentially a new way of working. And yeah, at the beginning it was hard. We had a trainer come in, teach us what to do, and people don't like change. People are happy with the way that they're working, but as soon as people start to see the results, they quite quickly get behind and on board, which is always great. And now we've been doing it now. I think we're on sprint 45, I think it is. And the ways of working are so ingrained in the team. It's natural, and I don't think they would ever want to go back to the way that we were working before, because there's so much. We're planning better. We've got a better roadmap, and we are working in a way that everybody feels empowered, and everyone has ownership of the work that we're doing. And I think it is a really, really good way of working. And I think what's also great is when we bring on other people. So our plan is to have more permanent people, but there's times when you're going to get busy. So we need a trusted pool of developers that we can bring in, and seamlessly bring them in as part of the team. We don't want to have to lose productivity because we're having to onboard a load of new people all the time or brief out. So I think that more people that we have working on a continuum in the team will be really, really good. And the way that it's set up now is it's easy to do that. I do remember our early days of being an agile product team. We would bring in contractors. And they would try to be telling us their ways of working or how they've done it in the past, which is contradictory to what we were being taught at the time. And it made it difficult because everybody was telling us, you should be doing it like this or you should be doing it like that. But we stuck to the way that we were being taught, and now when somebody comes in, we're so well versed. We tell people how we're working, and that's our way of working, and we know it works, and it's tried and tested. And then from a business point of view, like most businesses, we want to turn more into an agile product business, but it's such a massive business, and it's quite difficult to kind of get everybody to understand the benefits of it. But I think that's happening, and I think that people are really seeing the benefits of agile. I think one of the nervousness around it is that there's a perception of agile not being that agile, and not being able to move quickly, which is ironic because it's called agile. You'd expect it to be, but I think people have experience of poor agile habits in the past where teams have just had a roadmap and gone, nope, we're sticking to the roadmap. We're not changing, or use it as an excuse not to do things. But we take a pragmatic approach to our roadmap, and the priorities are always shifted. And I think it comes from me coming from an agency. It's very fast paced, and projects will come in and out quickly. You might be busy working on something and then have to drop everything for a new business pitch and still get the work done that you've been paid to do. So that kind of mindset I've helped bring into the team, where actually it's quick, and because we are not IT per se, we are corporate affairs. Everyone from the team comes from a communications background, and I think that quick reactive communications philosophy helps us be more agile. And as long as we're not just going into sprints and then chopping and changing, which we don't do, but we're able to plan a couple of sprints ahead, and if something new comes in and we know that it's urgent, we're able to to pivot very quickly, and it works well because we're so well planned. And what's great about having the roadmap is what we wouldn't have had in the past is we can see, okay, what's the impact If we're going to something urgent's come in this week, or that we're going to have to do in the next sprint, what are we going to move out? What can we deprioritize? And does the stakeholder understand the what's going to happen if we bring a new piece of work in and move something out? What's the impact of that? And as long as everybody understands what the impact of the work is, we can pivot and we can reprioritize. It's fine. Whereas I think that maybe others have had experience of agile where they've gone, no, we can't fit that in for another 6 years because our roadmap's planned and that's it. We're not moving.
That's where the backlog gets so locked. It's such an inflexible backlog. It's stretching 7 sprints ahead, and no one's prepared to kind of unlock it and reprioritize. That becomes problematic.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think it's worked out very well for us so far, and we're able to prove to the business that we're a proper agile team, and agile is the best way forward for us.
And that's, I guess, that in itself, because I guess culturally there are some elements of the business which, almost come from that kind of construction background. If you're building a big infrastructure project, that's very much from the construction and logistics world. So, that way of doing things, you can't, build a new power transmission network in an agile methodology. Or I don't know, maybe somebody will write in and tell me I'm wrong on that. Maybe agile is a new thing in construction, but it seems to be like building something big from an infrastructure point of view. It feels quite waterfall in the way that it's done, and then you're bringing in this new ethos, this kind of one team ethos, where there's this very strong culture, very strong muscle memory built into the team, very high levels of training and capability, and then that kind of flexible. It's flexible. You said the word you used was pragmatic, way of addressing the prioritization of tasks, allowing you to pivot, allowing you to take into case kind of emergent business needs. It feels like a very different kind of philosophy to that kind of infrastructure construction way of doing things. So, how did you build the case for that change of culture? I think lots of people would be really fascinated to know that.
Yeah, well, I must admit, the case came more from our IT colleagues who really wanted us to start working in the agile way. So I have a business partner from the IT side of things who I work very closely with and have done since I joined the business, and we spent a lot of time kind of planning how the team could look and what the operating model would be, and then we decided actually we trialed it and tried to do it ourselves, and then we realised at the time that actually we needed some help, and the company was investing in bringing in some coaches, and I think what we've done really is just built it up organically, and because we've worked very closely with the IT team, we've been able to just go and retrain, and then once we've had a good model, we're able to then sell it to our the senior team on corporate affairs, say this is the model that we've got, and we've been working on this and it works well. Look, this is how it works, these are the results. Everybody's quite happy for us to continue, because they see the results. So why would anyone want to go against it? But I have had questions, new people come into the business, new senior leaders, and the questions have been, well, why are you doing it in this way, and why not just give it all to an agency, and you let them take on the risk to build something, and I, my argument is always actually as soon as we give out over all the keys, and this is what's happened in the past, we've had different agencies work on things, and we've built up loads of technical debt, design debt, and it's basically essentially mean that we're rebuilding the website in the back end because it's a bit messy. And so by giving it to an agency to do, where we've just kind of washed our hands of it, it means that we don't have the ownership that we want, and it makes it very difficult. Like when I joined the company, to spend a long time kind of looking at the things of the past to kind of understand why decisions were made. Still today, if I want some historic information, there actually is. It's very difficult to actually find, decisions that were made 5, 6 years ago because the people aren't here anymore, or it's moved, or an agency had worked on it and we no longer have that relationship with them. Even if you went back, they might not have the people there anymore. So they have no reason to keep stuff. Whereas now, as the way that we work, because the team is a in-house product team, and people will come and go. It's natural in any team, but it will be over time, and it will evolve over time. And now we keep really good records of things. We have like Confluence that's like a Bible of all of the way our websites are run and all the decisions that we've made. So if we ever need to go back in 5, 6 years time, we know there's a decision log, and I just think it works in a much better way. And showing our senior leaders that it works. This is how it works, and these are the results. And actually, it's more expensive and it's slower to give it all to an agency to go and work. And I'm not anti-agency at all. And there's always times when we need an expertise to be brought in that we don't have, and we might not necessarily go out and hire just because we need to do something, or we might have a spike where actually we're quite busy. One of the things we work on Acquia is our back end, and we bought a product called Site Studio, which is designed to make things easier. You don't have to redevelop each time. It's a modular drag and drop, but it takes some implementation. So, work with specialist agencies that understand Site Studio to bring them in to help us set this up. And that's where I see kind of like the model going in the future, and how it works very well with us is because we can retain, all the knowledge, but we can go to outside experts just to help us as and when we need it. And it means that we're able to be more cost effective. It helps us budget better, and I think it makes things go faster, which is the priority for us, is to get things done quicker.
And I think that's a really interesting takeaway, isn't it? It's that blend of, I guess, kind of maintaining sovereignty over the things that are really important to the heart of your program, that knowledge, that insight. But on the other hand, having those sets of, I guess, strategic relationships and partnerships to help you manage, the bursts in capacity that you need, or the differences in capability that you might need from time to time. It's that blend, isn't it, of creating that one team. It's almost like an onion, where at the heart of it you've got your team, and then you've got different layers of people or organisations that are able to help you in different capabilities around that. So it'd be really good to. I think that's absolutely fascinating. It'd be really good just to kind of like round off. You've come from the agency world, and you kind of had the great fortune to be a part of that kind of phase of the digital revolution, where things were changing on a minute by minute. I mean, they still are. Of course, they still are. They wake up every morning, there's something new going on in AI right now, isn't it? But things were really changing on a day-by-day basis during that period, and I guess a lot of people that have kind of cut their teeth through that come with a kind of a spirit of innovation and a spirit of entrepreneurial activity and an entrepreneurial approach. How do you take that and bring the best of that into an environment where you need to be mindful of the governance, of the security, of the stability? How do you balance those things? Because I think that's a really interesting. How do you create that kind of growth mindset and flexibility within the corporate environment.
Yeah, well, it is interesting, and it's one of those areas where it's always happens. Someone new comes into the business, they want to bring in everything that great ideas to bring in stuff, and then they realise actually there's a process. My stance was always when I joined the business was learn the processes first. Learn what the rules are before you try to kind of bend the rules or play within the area, because it's like it's hard to do it if you don't know what exactly you're playing with. And it's an understanding of why things are in existence. And it's like for example, if I was to bring in something to collect data, and then we had a data leak, and we got a GDPR fine of 3% of global turnover. For a business like National Grid, it's millions. So once you get that in your head, you're like, well, okay, that's what I'm dealing with. What can I do within that? And I think one of the areas that we're looking at, you mentioned AI, and obviously AI is very, very hot topic. And I think what I find interesting about AI is we've gone from being scared of it to wanting to embrace it to trying to understand how we embrace it. So it's kind of like a real change curve there. And I think we're at the point of what can we do? Where can we take advantages of things like AI? And we're investigating tools that will help our customers contact us, for example. So at the moment, and it's been this way for since the website has been in existence, you kind of have to understand the business to contact someone at National Grid. It's not that easy. We know that our users have told us that we don't need to be a genius to work that one out. But how do we fix it? We've got such a big business. How do we make it easy for people? So one of the areas that we're looking at is AI chatbots, for example. So where can we, instead of expecting our users to understand us, we should understand our users. So our users should come to us and say, I'm here for, and then we use AI, for example, to direct people off to the right place, or give them the right person to contact, or answer their question without them having to really think too much about it. And that's what I was saying earlier, is like, come in, get that task done quickly. And the technology is there. Of course, if we bring in AI, a chatbot, we work very closely with our security teams and our architectural teams to make sure that everything we do is 100% secure. Our biggest worry is, well, what happens if somebody hacks it and gives our customers information that's misleading or wrong? And that's obviously not what we would ever want to happen. So it's like, how do we keep it secure? How do we make sure that the AI is answering the right questions? But I think it's having things like that and ideas like that, and seeing what you can bring in, and not getting frustrated that it's going to take a while with all the different stakeholders that you need to bring in to get an idea signed off. But I think if you're able to do that and have a good relationship with the people that you have to work with, and I think you find in a big company like National Grid, is there's so many people. Unless you have a good relationship, it's quite difficult to actually find the right person to speak to and go around the houses, because it's massive. So it's about knowing that, and we have people on our product team. We have an IT architect that sits on our product team. We have an IT security person that sits kind of on the outside of the team, that we have a very close relationship. And they know what we want to do and what we want to achieve. So we're able to sit, chat with them and go, look, this is what we want to happen. What's the technology? What can we go and do? And obviously, myself keeping in the air on the ground of what's happening in the industries help to lead and push that team as well, to say to them, we've seen these cool tools. We'd like something like this. Yeah, our IT architecture team doesn't like it when people go and say, "I want to bring in a tool." So they say, "Well, actually, what's the outcome you're looking to achieve first? What do you want it to do?" And then we'll work together to find the tool, rather than saying, I need a spade to dig this hole. I need to achieve a hole to do this. It does work well, and you do end up with the best. And also with trying to bring different sites into one product team will help on that understanding, because we've got lots of tools that do the same thing in different parts of the business. So working with people like that, they're able to see the whole bigger picture. And it works well. And I do feel that even though we're in a big company, we are being more and more challenged and tasked with coming up with innovative ideas. And we're at the cutting edge of an industry that is very innovative. Electricity's been around for a long time. The things like pylons have been around for a very long time, but the new techniques that are coming up around climate change and around generating energy in a different way is very innovative. And we all have that in our minds, that we want to be seen as that innovative company. So we are challenged to make things more innovative. So I'm, as you say, coming from that background, I'm happy to be part of that, and to make sure that we're pushing that areas.
Well,
be a very dynamic site.
That's absolutely amazing. And so I, for one, am very happy to know that the web operations within one of our national treasures are in such safe hands. And it's been an absolute pleasure this morning to gain that insight. I think a lot of people would be really interested to hear about that journey of building that product team, and that kind of one team approach within that organisation, and bringing in the innovation, and taking on all of these really exciting technologies, but within a framework that really makes sense for all of us, given the times that we live in. I think is absolutely amazing. So on behalf of our viewers, our listeners, want to really thank you for your time this morning. It's been really, really great to hear your insights. Thank you very much, Simon.
Thank you. It's been great, and looking forward to speaking to you soon, Julian.